Ground Control to Major Tom is not the fucking name of the song, David James! Okay, I have to say something before we... on the supplements disc of this one, I was, finishing up the supplements, and I got through the trailers, and the last bit is galleries, and the first section is a section on, I guess, photographs by the photographer David James. And, he talks about working with Rogue, and he says, oh yeah, I love David Bowie. Ground Control to Major Tom is one of my favorite songs ever. And I'm like, I'm over this. The song's called Space Oddity, not fucking Ground Control to Major Tom. Anyway. Hello there, CriterioNate here. Number 304. The Man Who Fell to Earth, which you can barely see because of all the stinking fucking things they put all over the discs. Nick Rogue's The Man Who Fell to Earth, starring the late, great, and all-around weirdly awesome David Bowie. His first major role in a movie, unless you could say he had some minor roles as a kid or a teenager in the past, and yeah, so. Let's see. I don't remember what. 1976, 134 minutes, color, blah, 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 English. All right, so spoilers abound. We're going to spoil this one because it's a doozy. So David Bowie plays an alien, as you might have guessed. Although David Bowie was, reportedly an alien anyway. I mean, the way he looked and, did his thing, he's a beautiful guy. But anyway, David Bowie plays an alien, falls to Earth, falls in this pool, this lake, and assumes the identity of Thomas James Newton, I think his name is, or I can't remember, I think it's Thomas Newton. And he, he's very obsessed with water. And the reason we find out is because he's sent to Earth to rescue his family, who lives on a planet where there's like no water. So he has to figure out this way to transport water back to his home planet. And so he ends up setting up this corporation, World Enterprises, based on all these patents he has. And he works with this guy who helps them get sold. And he ends up, and at one point he ends up staying at this hotel, and the elevator girl, or the elevator girl / chambermaid lady, ends up knocking him out because of doing the elevator too fast, and he ends up falling out and passing out. And she carries him to his room, and she takes care of him, and they end up bonding, and she ends up falling for him, and her name is Mary Lou. And she teaches him, how to kind of be a human, I guess, because he doesn't really do a lot of things. He doesn't drink. He drinks nothing but water. She turns him on to alcohol, and she takes him to church in one scene. I thought that was kind of funny that she's teaching him how to sing Amazing Grace. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Jerusalem. And he doesn't know the words, and he tries to sing it, and he sounds kind of like, It's just funny that he, him here, trying to have him acting as if he was singing. So, and yeah, so then so they build a house near a lake, and they live together, and they have a large amount of sex. And there's also meanwhile, there's this teacher who has a lot of sex of his own with all these barely legal girls. He's a college professor, and he gets hired as a fuel technician at World Enterprises, and he ends up meeting Newton. And from the get-go, he's starting to he picks up that there's something wrong with him, And so he sets up a secret meeting. He sets up a meeting with Newton, and he hides these X-ray machines in his house. And I think Newton knows, but he ends up letting him take the X-rays anyway. And so Newton ends up, Nathan, I forget, he's played by Rip Torn. Nathan Byron, I think. I can't remember, but we'll call him Nathan. Nathan sells the X-rays to the government, and and the government are like, oh my God, there's an alien on. Let's experiment the fuck out of him. So meanwhile, Newton comes up with this idea. He tells them, we're going to build a spaceship because he's ready. He's going to take this lake that they've been living in and send it back up to Earth. And Mary Lou, played by Candy Clark, gets suspicious and finds out and calls him. At one point, she calls him an alien, and he thinks, she means, and I think he thinks that she means, that from Earth. But in reality, the fact is he landed in America and he was given a British accent, a passport, and all that. So he's living in America as a British alien, or something like that. So he ends up showing his real self, and he comes out and he's got like no genitals and almost a smooth body and like eyes like a leopard or like Michael Jackson at the end of the same contacts that Michael Jackson wears at the end of Thriller, that kind of thing. So so that's basically, and then so the ship gets built. Newton's about to go on it, and just as he's detained by the government. His Newton buys out his limousine man, his valet, and he ends up taking him to this the experiment room, and they end up doing all these tests on him, and they end up sedating him with alcohol, which he's now addicted to. He's become an alcoholic. Candy wants to see him. Isn't allowed to see him for a long time until after a number of experiments, during which at one point his human contacts are apparently fused to his eyes, so he can't take them out and go back to looking like an alien. And so eventually Mary Lou visits him and they have sex and catch up, and they admit that to each other they don't love each other anymore. And I don't think he ever really loved her, but she did fall in love with him. And I think they ended up getting married at one point. I can't remember, but yeah. So it's kind of it is a very sad movie. In the end, Newton ends up alone and an alcoholic, basically. His family, and throughout the movie we see clips of his family, searching for water on his planet, and in the end, they die. Of course, Newton never finds this out. He creates these records that are sold in record stores, and at one point, in the last scene, we see Nathan, catching up with Newton after a long period of time, and telling him, showing him the record. And as he's buying the record, we see a poster for David Bowie's Young Americans in the back, and it's kind of funny. Outside of that, so the movie basically ends with them, talking, and Newton still has all his money from his, from World Enterprises, but he's still alone and alcoholic. And the funny, and also the cool thing about this, interesting thing about this movie is that all the prosthetics, because everybody else is supposed to be aging over time, but Newton, because he's an alien, doesn't age. He stays the same. So everybody else, Candy Clark has all this prosthetics that she had to put on, that Candy Clark had to put on to play an older Mary Lou when she visits Newton in the mansion that he's held captive in. And then even at the end, when it finds out that I think she ends up marrying Nathan. I don't remember that part, so yeah, that's basically the movie. Okay, Bowie is, he wasn't perfect, but this movie, I think he was perfect in this role. I think he played the role perfectly. His acting, was perfect. And as far as Rogue is concerned, it's a weird one. Like all of Rogue, I'm now convinced that all of Rogue's movies are weird. Joseph, who you remember from Eyes Without a Face, he loves Nick Rogue, and he says he's told me that Rogue didn't make a bad film, and I told him rewatch Walkabout. You know, you can watch Bad Timing. Bad Timing's not a bad film. And this one, Man Who Fell to Earth, not perfect. There are things that I didn't care much to see, like Nathan's penis at one point. You know, he's like, when he's having sex with all the underage girls, and basically he says the same thing to every girl, and they respond the same way too. So that was kind of disturbing. But outside of that, it was worth it for Bowie. See the dude. Again, I really wanted to get my friend Yuna to do this review with me because we could both talk about it. She was telling me that, she loved it for Bowie, but she thought the movie just got really weird because they kept changing it over time. And it is based on a novel by Walter... Gosh, I can't remember his name. I'm doing this on the computer now, so I'm going to pull up the supplements list so I can get some names on the Criterion site. Because I can't remember, because, of course, Azusa doesn't give a shit about cases or anything like that. So let's pull up The Man Who Fell to Earth so I can describe the supplements to you perfectly. Anyway, so, again, this is a really good movie. Again, David Bowie is sorely missed. I definitely miss Bowie. Again, I've seen him only, as far as his acting, I've mostly seen him in Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, which we will do a proper review for in a few years, and Labyrinth, which Yuna showed to me after his death, because I had never seen it, and it was one of her favorite films, mostly because of Bowie, but it was like a childhood favorite for her. So, yeah, those are like the main two things I've seen. Oh, and I keep forgetting, Last Temptation of Christ. He was in Last Temptation of Christ, which we've seen. It was the one number 70 in Criterion from first season, yeah. Gosh, he played Pontius Pilate. So yeah. Anyway, Man Who Fell to Earth, pretty cool movie. I'm gonna give it great for Bowie, but Rogue still made a really fucking weird one. And because of that, I'm gonna give it a B. Give it a B. I was thinking, I wasn't sure where to rank it. Again, it's amazing for Bowie, but I think I gave Bad Timing a B+, and that was mostly because, the soundtrack. The soundtrack really, took me by surprise. And the plot. The plot was good too, well, although creepy. So, yeah, because the plot was a little too just strange and out there for me, in this almost like walkabout, I'm just going to give it a B. And that's it. So, I guess Man Who Fell to Earth, B. Film, first disc, 2-disc set, and sadly this one's out of print, although it is apparently coming back out. I think Janus Film, or Studio Canal is re-releasing it, I think next month. They're releasing it on DVD and Blu-ray. Sad that they, lost partnership with Criterion. They couldn't get a new version of it reissued or restocked, because I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's going to have more supplements than the Criterion version, but it's not Criterion. So anyway, there was a Blu-ray version, but I got the DVD. Disc 1 is just the movie with commentary. Disc 2 has all the supplements, and let me read you the list. So, the first thing was an interview with screenwriter Paul Mayersberg. And then there's an audio interview with Walter Tevis, who wrote the book, The Man Who Fell to Earth. Or I think it was called, I forget the name of it. It was originally called gosh, I forget the name. But now I'm going to look up Walter Tevis because it had an interesting book. I thought it was called The Man Who Fell to Earth. He wrote The Hustler, which is the movie by Paul with Paul Newman and Jackie Gleason, and the sequel, The Color of Money. So yeah, that was his claim to fame. Was writing those novels, and yeah, it's a really pretty informative interview that kind of almost ends early, but then continues on for another 10 minutes because they ended it after about 15 minutes, and he ends up keep talking about one of his books. I can't remember what the name of it was. Was it the Man Who Fell to Earth. He talks about Mockingbird. The Steps of the Sun. And that was probably because that was one of his most recent books, was The Steps of the Sun. He'd written four novels in the 80s. And then he'd written The Hustler in 1959 and The Man Who Fell to Earth in 1963. So, yeah, so there's that. And what else? There's a new video interview with Rip Torn, who played Nathan, and Candy Clark, who played Mary Lou. What is his name now? I've got the cast credits. Nathan Bryce. Bryce, that's his name. And that is that. And then what else is on here? There's some interviews with the production designers, Brian Eatwell, and the costume design Mary Ruth, which has like sketches and talks about working with Bowie and how they got all the elaborate scenes with the aliens all designed. And of course, and as I mentioned, the production and publicity stills introduced by David James, who doesn't know shit about David Bowie's music. And a whole fuckload of trailers which don't hint how weird the movie is at all, you know. Just mentioned David Bowie. So, anyway, that's it. We'll leave it there. Man Who Fell to Earth, amazing movie. Rest in peace, Mr. David Bowie. And B. Yes. So anyway, that's it for tonight. Sunday or Monday, Jean Renoir's Budo Saved from Drowning. And that is coming soon again. I don't know. I know I'm busy Sunday morning and afternoon. I don't know how long I'll be busy though. So if I have time in the evening, I'll get to it because it's a pretty short. Again, it's a pretty short movie, and supplements probably won't take too long. Although you never know with Criterion. You know, when we have a short movie, it's probably packed to the brim with 4 hours of supplements. You know, so there is that to fear. And then Le Samurai, I am still waiting on Le Samurai. My old library has a copy, which I'm hoping to pick up either tomorrow or Sunday. And then Naked, I have the Blu-ray sitting on my desk at work, as well as Masculine Feminine. And the other two names I can't remember. Or the other one, Ugetsu I have hasn't been sent off yet either, so I'm hoping those get sent off soon. Otherwise, there may be a bit of a delay, or I may have to, or I'll try to watch them on Hulu while I can, because apparently, for those of you who don't know, Criterion just announced today that they're and I'd heard something about this. Apparently, they're doing a new partnership with TCM on a website called Filmstruck, which is supposed to collect all these independent films and all that, foreign films. And there's going to be a Criterion channel, which is going to showcase a bunch of Criterion movies. And yeah, and so because of that, they're cutting ties with Hulu in November. I think it's sometime in November. They're cutting ties with removing the whole library from Hulu. Again, I didn't really use Hulu too much for movies outside of a couple. There were a couple I used it for, like a Fat Girl and the Pornographers. I used it for that one, and there were a couple others that I did, but I can't remember. I'd like to think there might have been one more. I used it for movies when. I did use it for movies when the library copies I had skipped, such as Tunes of Glory. The copy I got stuck in places and my DVD player would skip, whole to the next chapter, cutting out 9 minutes of the movie or so. And so I would use Hulu to pair up where I was in the movie and watch that bit until I got to the scene where the DVD would play again. So I really did enjoy, having a backup plan in case the DVDs I get are scratched, because they do come scratched, sadly. And that's, yeah, so Filmstruck, I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be like $10 a month or something. I'd like to try it. I want to see what the interface is like. I want to know exactly what I get with a subscription. Because it seems like they have like they're going to bring special features and all that. And again, I don't really want it to take the place of the DVD because one of the points I love about the DVD is the artwork. They put a lot of time and effort into this artwork, and to not be able to hold it in my hands and look at it, look at the description and the supplements while I'm watching it, just doesn't appeal to me as much. So, but again, I like Criterion, so we may try a subscription of it, and then maybe I'll do a separate review giving you my full thoughts on Filmstruck. Because a lot of people are like, some people are all for it, some people are totally against it because they love using Hulu, and that's mainly the main reason why they use Hulu is because of Criterion. So for them to sever ties with Hulu altogether kind of sucks, but anyway, that's all in due time. So yeah, so that's it for me. Thank you for watching. That's enough blathering on. Again, rest in peace, Mr. David Bowie. You're still not out of the water, Rogue. We'll see what happens because we've only got 2 more Rogue movies. Insignificance, which I'm waiting for because I love the soundtrack to that movie. I have it somewhere, which I was gonna go grab it, but I'm not gonna grab. I'll showcase to you. I'll show you guys when I get to the movie because maybe I'll play some of it in the background because it does have a fantastic soundtrack. There's a couple of cuts that I love playing, Don't Look Now, which Joseph has told me that's one of his all-time favorite movies. And I don't know anything about it, but you never know. It might be a good one. If Bad Timing is pretty decent, so maybe the others will. You never know. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Rest in peace, Mr. David Bowie. You were sorely missed. And that's it. And we will see you either Sunday night or Monday for Budo Saved from Drowning. And if Monday, maybe, and if I can pull it off, maybe a double feature. Maybe we'll do both that and Le Samurai on Monday. And until then, goodbye.